Check it out, check it out. Listen up, world. It's Phesto Dee from Hieroglyphics, Souls of Mischief, on Unknown Sound, live from Athens, Greece, baby. Spin it.
Καλησπέρα. Δεύτερη σεζόν Unknown Sound Beyond the Neighborhood και είμαστε χαρούμενοι που συνεχίζουμε τις εκπομπές. Να θυμίσω ότι το Beyond the Neighborhood ξεκίνησε μέσα στην καραντίνα. Έτσι λοιπόν παίρνουμε συνεντεύξεις από καλλιτέχνες από όλο τον κόσμο. Είστε συντονισμένοι στην Airtopen 106,7, airtopen.com/radio διαδικτυακά. Είναι η εκπομπή Unknown Sound φυσικά. Και πρεμιέρα σήμερα, μεγάλη μας χαρά, είναι ο Phesto Dee από τους Souls of Mischief, ένας πραγματικά legend της Golden Era στο αμερικάνικο hip hop. Και πάμε για τη συνέντευξη. Yo, yo, yo! And we have with us Phesto Dee, Souls of Mischief, a living legend in hip hop.
Peace.
How are you?
Man, I'm great, man. I'm great. Just chilling, man. I'm happy to be healthy and able to continue to do what I love to do, which is music, and you know, keep the legacy going, keep the Hyro legacy moving forward, you know.
Exactly. We are very glad to have here with us now with pandemic and all this stuff. How is the things there?
You know, it's a one day at a time thing, man. You know, you got so many different things going on right now. Obviously, there's a lot of social justice issues that are happening here in the United States and in California in particular, but not just here, but all, you know, all the states. But this has always been one of the more conscious areas, I should say, you know, the Bay Area, being that it's a melting pot, you know. So I could go on and on about that, but you know, it's so many layers. It's kind of like, where do you want to begin? Where do you want to start? Because you can go on and on with that. Mm-hmm. You know?
So let's go back to the beginning of Souls of Mischief. What do you remember from these times?
Oh man, you want to go back that far?
Just a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, what do you want to know? What do you want to know?
What do you remember from this time, from the start of Souls of Mischief?
Oh man, I remember the majority of everything that happened, as you know, from the very beginning. We grew up as friends together, from the same neighborhood in Oakland, and around high school, you know, Del the Funky Homo Sapien, who was part of the Hieroglyphics crew, and I'm sure many people know who he is out your way. He was getting his foot in the door as far as the record industry, and we were like, hey man, you know, we're just trying to create these demos, you know, and we were really, that was our focus, was to make a dope demo and get our name out there. A real pivotal thing that happened at that time was something called the Gavin Convention, or the Gavin Seminar, which was a radio, like a college radio convention here in San Francisco in the Bay Area. In the Bay Area, we don't have really an industry. The music industry itself is centered in LA and New York. And if you don't know the geography of California, California is a huge state. It's the size of some countries, you know. Mm-hmm. So the distance from LA to the Bay, we're not LA. I'll just say that it's a 6 hour between a 5 and a 6 hour drive from here to LA. So the industry is not here. So we looked at the Gavin Convention as like this big, huge deal, because we felt like the industry is coming to the Bay Area. So we made it a point to hit up the Gavin Convention, and we made a name there for ourselves, and we got our demo spreading around, and a few labels caught interest. And then a song called Burnt came out in 1991, which was the B-side of Mr. Dabalina, Del's second single. And that got a buzz going, and then from there we hooked up with Jive Records, and the rest is history.
Tell us a little bit about your debut years and the 90s, which was the golden era for the hip hop, and about the Bay, because we also know that big rappers came out of there. So we would like you to bring up some memories from that debut times and go on with your story, like how you did your name in San Francisco on the Bay, and how you were like getting into the LA to make your names famous and all that time.
Okay, so in the early 90s, around that time, there was a specific focus on what the industry labeled as gangster rap,
Mm-hmm.
or what they labeled the West Coast. They kind of pigeonholed the West Coast into having like one sound, and
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people from all over the world thought it was only gangster rap out here, which was not true. You know, you had a vast scene out here. You had a variety of different styles and from not just rap, but also DJs and MCs and break dancers and graffiti artists. You had
Mm-hmm.
a myriad of a plethora of different styles and it was just very diverse scene musically, and not like I
Mm-hmm.
say, not just rap. I'm talking about all forms of music, whether it's
Mm-hmm.
funk, rock,
Mm-hmm.
soul, you know, any form of music. You had a vast, diverse sound that came from the
Mm-hmm.
Bay Area. So it was separate from LA in that regard. LA is a more of a melting pot kind of city where you have a lot of transplants, people who come from different cities and stuff like that. But the Bay Area is different. It's like most people are homegrown. Most of the artists are homegrown. They don't come from somewhere else, and they're usually second, third generation people. So the community is a little bit smaller, not just in numbers, but also just in mentality too. So during that time, you know, we made it a point to have a different sound and go against the grain of what was labeled as a stereotypical West Coast sound, and that's kind of comes from our influences. We were influenced by all of the early hip hop, you know, the Run DMCs and the Eric B. and Rakims and the EPMDs, Public Enemy, KRS-One, and Boogie Down Productions, and even predating them, going back to you know, Sugar Hill Gang and Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five and the Funky 4+1 and Treacherous 3, Cold Crush Brothers. So, you know, with us growing up on you know, a wide variety of different of hip hop and influences, that influenced us to want to have our own sound and but also build upon the sound that predated us in the forefathers and the pillars that had been laid before us. So a lot of people refer to the 90s as the golden era, but I think people who, like, when the music came out in the 90s, I think it actually was a springboard, was actually not a springboard, but what actually was influenced by the golden era, which to me predates the early 90s. I always say the golden era was from like 86, you could even say 85 to like 88, 89. To me, that those 4 years are the most, have the biggest explosion of stylistic differences and creative, you know, creative differences and stuff like that. So, yeah, I mean, it's a honor that people call that time the golden era, but I always feel like that's doing a disjustice to the artists that predated us. We kind of built on and stood on the shoulders of what they did, and tried to make our own mark.
Yeah. How do you see hip hop today in relation to the 90s, to the golden era?
You know, there's it's a lot different. You know, that's the short story, is it's a lot different in terms of you know, the industry side of it. Musically, I think it's a lot more variety out there. I know some people think that, oh, it all sounds the same now and it's all just trap music or whatever, you know. But in my opinion, you have, I mean, first of all, hip hop is a global phenomenon now.
Yeah.
Like in the early 90s, it was still kind of like a novelty, so to speak. It was all around the world, don't get me wrong, but not at the level that it is right now. It hadn't spanned generations. It hadn't crossed any generational lines. Our parents weren't into hip hop at all, you know.
Yeah.
And now you have, you know, people who their kids are in college and they grew up listening to, you know, hip hop from the day they were born. So, you know, I think just I could say so much about the artists now. I think I like to focus on the creative artists that are out there and not the artists that are like just doing the same thing over and over again. But I like to focus on those who are actually pushing the envelope. And it's a lot of artists out there who are, you know, who are doing that and who are, and I could go down a negative road with it too and say, well, this is happening and it's a lot of fluff and it's a lot of BS that you know, cats ain't really as lyrical or whatever. But that's a short-sighted perspective on hip hop. Hip hop is as vast as it's ever been, in my opinion.
Yes.
So 93 Till Infinity has been listed in the first 100 hip-hop albums of all time. So the question is, when you were on the album, was one of your targets to be world famous, or just in first place you wanted to be heard and your messages and talk to the masses and spread out what you had to say towards the people, or were you targeting also that high when you were doing the album?
You know, I think as a 16, 17-year-old kid, you know, I don't think you have the wisdom to say to be like, oh, I want to just do music and not be famous. Like, I think everybody that's like trying to be in the rap industry wants to experience that, you know what I'm saying? Wants to experience the fame side of it and everybody knowing your song and hearing your song on the radio or whatever. You know, I think every kid growing up dreams about that. So we definitely fall into that category because you don't even really know what that totally entails, to be honest. You're just like, oh man, it'd be cool to have my song on the radio and everybody knows my song and I'd be a famous rapper and all of that. You don't really know what to expect other than that, what you see on the outside. But once you get inside the industry, your view on that changes a little bit, I think. But, you know, initially our goal was to make timeless music and to make it, and to prove that we had a little bit of a chip on our shoulder in terms of like, yo, not only are we doper than cats where we live, but we're doper than everybody else. You know what I'm saying? So we went into it with the warrior mentality. Like, we want to go head to head with the best. We want to prove that we not only deserve our spot, but we can go toe to toe with the best of them. So we took it from that, you know, within our crew, it's like a friendly competition already. And we're working together, but we're also trying to set a high bar and maintain that standard and even supersede that standard. So that's what we wanted to do in hip hop, because that's what the cats before us, that's the ground that they laid. They said, it's not about trying to equal what somebody else is doing. It's about one-upping what they're doing, you know, showing that your style is better, or your rhymes are better, or your beats are better, or your cuts are better, or you dance better, or whatever it is you do in hip-hop, you're trying to outdo, you know, I don't even like to refer to it as competition, but, you know, that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to outdo the next man. So it was like you heard a song, step in the arena. Like that's the way I describe what we want to step in the arena and say, you know what, this is us, this is our spot. We carving out our own space. Nobody can infiltrate this space, and we're gonna make something that could stand the test of time, and also hold its own place amongst all the great records that came out before that record.
Μας λέει ότι είναι πολύ καλά, αραχτός, ότι είναι καλά επειδή κάνει αυτό που αγαπάει, και αυτό που αγαπάει να κάνει είναι η μουσική, και γενικά ασχολείται με το να πηγαίνει, όπως πολύ χαρακτηριστικά μας λέει, την κληρονομιά του hip hop προς τα μπροστά. Όσον αφορά την πανδημία, μας λέει ότι είναι ένα θέμα το οποίο το παίρνει ημέρα με την ημέρα, σιγά σιγά. Ήταν κάτι πολύ αναπάντεχο. Βέβαια αυτό έχει πυροδοτήσει και θέματα κοινωνικής δικαιοσύνης στην Καλιφόρνια και γενικότερα σε όλες τις πολιτείες των Ηνωμένων Πολιτειών. Μας λέει ότι η Καλιφόρνια γενικά είναι ένα σημείο που βράζει, ένα καζάνι που βράζει μια πολύ συνειδητοποιημένη περιοχή. Θα μπορούσαμε να μιλάμε πάρα πολύ για αυτό το θέμα, λέει, και δεν υπάρχει από πού να το πιάσεις. Στην ερώτηση γενικά με τους Souls of Mischief, μας λέει ότι ήταν φίλοι από τα παιδικά τους χρόνια, όλοι τους είναι από το Oakland, γνωρίζονταν από τη γειτονιά. Εκεί στο Λύκειο σχημάτισαν το group του Souls of Mischief και αυτό που ήθελαν ήταν να ακουστούν κάνοντας ένα demo, έτσι ώστε να ακουστεί η μουσική τους. Ήταν τότε που ήρθαν σε επαφή με το γνωστό τότε rapper Funky Homo Sapiens, ο οποίος τότε έκανε τα πρώτα του βήματα και του έδωσαν τα demo τους, έτσι ώστε να μπορέσει να τα προωθήσει. Τότε ένα πολύ σημαντικό event της εποχής, ένα ραδιοφωνικό σταθμό, ήταν το Gavin Seminar, όπου ακούγονταν όλες οι τελευταίες μουσικές. Το κέντρο βέβαια της μουσικής βιομηχανίας ήταν το Los Angeles και η Νέα Υόρκη, Οπότε, επειδή γινόταν αυτό το σεμινάριο στο Oakland, το οποίο ήταν πολύ μακριά από το LA, 600 χιλιόμετρα, να φανταστούμε ότι η Καλιφόρνια είναι τεράστια στο μέγεθος μιας χώρας, ίσως και πολύ παραπάνω. Οπότε, επειδή ακριβώς ήταν πολύ μακριά από τη μουσική βιομηχανία του Los Angeles, ένιωθαν ότι η μουσική βιομηχανία με τον Kevin Seminar πήγαινε σε αυτούς. Τότε παρουσίασαν ένα από τα demo τους εκεί, όπου ακούστηκε το όνομά τους, έγινε χαμός και έτσι έγινε το ξεκίνημά τους το 1991 με ένα B-side σε ένα δίσκο που λεγόταν Birth. Σχετικά με την ερώτηση με το ντεμπούτο του στην πρώτη της εμφάνιση και τη χρυσή εποχή του hip-hop, μας λέει ότι εκείνες τις μέρες, στα 90s, το επίκεντρο στη δυτική ακτή ήταν πάνω στη gangsta rap. Όλοι νόμιζαν ότι το μόνο είδος μουσικής που υπάρχει στη δυτική ακτή είναι το gangsta rap. Όμως στην πραγματικότητα δεν ήταν έτσι. Υπήρχε μια πολύ δυνατή μουσική σκηνή με ποικιλία από DJs, MCs, breakdancers, καλλιτέχνες graffiti, πληθώρα μουσικών στυλ, διαφορετικά μουσικά είδη, όχι μόνο hip-hop, επίσης rock, soul και διαφορετικότητα ήχων γενικότερα από την περιοχή του κόλπου του Σαν Φρανσίσκο. Το Los Angeles εκείνες τις ημέρες ήταν σαν μας το αποκαλεί καζάνι που βράζει, με εμφυτεύματα, με πολλούς καλλιτέχνες εμφυτεύματα τους αποκαλεί, οπότε αντίθετα στον κόλπο, στο Όκλαντ, ήταν μια μικρή κοινωνία, ντόπιοι άνθρωποι, με καταγωγή από το Όκλαντ. Επίσης η κοινωνία ήταν και πιο στενή στη φιλοσοφία της και κατάφεραν να δημιουργήσουν έναν διαφορετικό ήχο που πήγαινε κόντρα στο στερεότυπο ήχο του gangsta rap εκείνη την εποχή. Αυτό οφείλονταν στις επιρροές τους, που ήταν η Run DMC, η Public Enemy, η Rakim, Sugar Hill Gang, πάνω στον ήχο των οποίων έχτισαν πάνω και έφτιαξαν το δικό τους ήχο. Όσον αφορά τώρα τη χρυσή εποχή του hip-hop, θα διαφωνήσει λίγο εκείνος μαζί μας. Θα μας πει ότι εκείνος θεωρεί τη χρυσή εποχή από το 1985 έως περίπου και το 1989, όπου οι καλλιτέχνες που εμφανίστηκαν εκείνη την εποχή ήταν τα θεμέλια της χρυσής αυτοαποκαλούμενης εποχής των 90s στο hip-hop. Υπήρξε μια έκρηξη στιλιστικά διαφόρων μουσικών ειδών τότε και είναι τιμή του, θεωρείται ήταν τιμή του που εκείνη η γενιά η δική του πάτησε σε τέτοιου είδους καλλιτέχνες. Του ζητάμε να μας συγκρίνει τη σημερινή εποχή στη μουσική βιομηχανία και τα χρυσά χρόνια των 90s και μας λέει ότι πρώτα απ' όλα το μέγεθος της βιομηχανίας, ότι σήμερα υπάρχει πολύ ποικιλία. Πολλοί βέβαια λένε ότι σήμερα όλη η μουσική ακούγεται το ίδιο, όλα είναι τραπ και τα λοιπά. Εκείνος αυτό που μου απαντάει σε αυτό είναι ότι σήμερα το hip-hop είναι παγκόσμιο φαινόμενο, ενώ τότε στα 90s ήταν απλώς μια καινοτομία. Και παλιά ήταν φαινόμενο, αλλά σήμερα είναι πολύ πιο μεγάλο φαινόμενο από ό,τι τότε. Για παράδειγμα, δεν υπήρχε δεύτερη γενιά στο hip-hop, δεν είχε μεταφερθεί το hip-hop από γενιά σε γενιά. Για παράδειγμα, μας λέει ότι οι γονείς μας εμάς δεν άκουγαν hip-hop, ενώ σήμερα μπορούμε να πούμε ότι εμείς ακούμε hip-hop και τα παιδιά μας ακούνε hip-hop το ίδιο. Όσον αφορά τους καλλιτέχνες, λέει ότι θα μπορούσε να λέει πολλά για τους σημερινούς καλλιτέχνες, βλέπει πάρα πολλούς, αλλά επικεντρώνεται κυρίως σε δημιουργικούς καλλιτέχνες που κοιτάνε να καινοτομούν και να πηγαίνουν συνεχώς μπροστά και όχι σε αυτούς που επαναλαμβάνονται. Αλλά γενικά μας λέει ότι σήμερα βλέπει το hip-hop πιο δυνατό από ποτέ. Σχετικά με το άλμπουμ 93 Till Infinity, 93 μέχρι την αιωνιότητα, μας λέει ότι όταν είσαι 16-17 χρονών, λογικό είναι, θες να γίνεις γνωστός, θέλεις να ακούγεσαι, θέλαμε, ονειρεύομασταν να ακούγονται η μουσική μας στο ράδιο, οποιοσδήποτε στη rap σκηνή θέλει κάτι τέτοιο. Μετά μπήκαμε στη μουσική βιομηχανία με τη φιλοσοφία πολεμιστή, θέλαμε να δείξουμε ότι ήμασταν εκεί και ότι μπορούσαμε να τα βάλουμε με τους καλύτερους στο είδος, εισάξει, αλλά να γίνουμε και καλύτεροι από αυτούς. Και μεταξύ τους υπήρχε, μας λέει, δημιουργική ανταγωνιστικότητα μέσα στο σχήμα τους, στο κρού τους. Όμως εκεί η ανταγωνιστικότητα λειτουργούσε με στόχο να πάνε τον πύχη ψηλότερα. Ήταν δημιουργική ανταγωνιστικότητα. Δεν ήθελαν να κάνουν κάτι εξίσου καλό με οτιδήποτε υπήρχε μέχρι εκείνη την εποχή. Ήθελαν να κάνουν κάτι καλύτερο. Όταν πιστεύει ότι όταν μπαίνεις στη μουσική βιομηχανία μπαίνεις για να φτιάξεις κάτι καλύτερο και κάτι όχι εισάξιο με κάτι που ήδη υπάρχει. Ήθελαν να φτιάξουν το δικό τους χώρο μουσικά, έναν χώρο ο οποίος θα ήταν ανεξάρτητος, δικός τους δυνατός, με χαρακτηριστικό ήχο και θα φτιάξουν κάτι το οποίο θα άντεχε στο χρόνο και θα ήταν καλύτερο από τα ήδη υπάρχοντα μέχρι εκείνη τη στιγμή.
So, now we are in 2020. Racism and police violence still remain aggressive. Do you see any possibility of change that in the future?
Do I see any possibility of what? Say that again.
To change this at future. We have the George Floyd's death.
Right. I know where you're going. So first thing I'll say is this. This has been going on for a long time. This is not new. This is not a new thing that just started happening. Even with Rodney King and, the Rodney King riots. A lot of people, everybody saw what happened with LA after the cops who beat up Rodney King were acquitted. But, you can take it all the way back to people like Emmett Till. This has been going on for so long, it reaches a boiling point at different points in history. And this is one of those boiling points. You know what I mean? So the only thing that I can say is this is a very, very intricate subject, because if I start talking about police brutality and the way police treat people of color, I'm almost negating the point. I'm almost losing the actual point, because the police are just the entry level into something that we call the justice system. And the justice system is the laws. The police follow the law. You know what I mean? The law, that's their job, is to uphold the law. And so they're doing what they're doing because they're not going to be held accountable by the law. You know what I'm saying? So you won't see these guys get, and you don't even have to be a policeman. You could be like in the situation with Trayvon Martin. You could be somebody that's just on a neighborhood watch and feels threatened, and they got certain laws, stand your ground laws, and they got all of these laws designed to do certain things and hold people back. And we have to be careful here, because when people try to create division, you have to say, am I a victim of this or not? You can't fall for the okie doke. You got to be a little more well read on things. You got to study up. You can't just follow what's in the media. The media might be trying to lead you down a certain path and distract you from something else that you should be focusing on. So you got to open up your third eye, man, and try to see beneath the surface a little bit. Obviously, police brutality is something that's been, we're from Oakland. Oakland is the home of the Black Panthers. They are so important to our history. It's in our DNA to understand the ramifications of what police can do. But I will say this, for somebody that's maybe a newbie to this whole thing and doesn't really know what's going on, it's something called mass incarceration, okay, in the prison industrial complex. And the ultimate goal is not to really murder Black people or murder people of color. The ultimate goal is to incarcerate us, because if you incarcerate us, then you can monetize us. And that's why we have private prisons, and state-funded prisons, and each person in that prison is worth a certain amount of money. Not only can you get free labor out of that person, but you can make that person a second-class citizen, meaning they don't have the right to vote, and they don't have to be in the prison. So they can get out of prison and be on parole or probation, or just be a felon. And they don't have the right to vote. They don't have the right to fair housing. They don't have the right to so many different things. Once they become a second-class citizen. Now, if you're already marginalized and you're already a person that comes from poverty, you can have your kids taken away from you, and the list goes on and on. They got something called the 3 strikes law, where if you get convicted 3 times, no matter, you could be shoplifting a piece of gum out of a supermarket, and that's your 3rd strike, you go to jail for life. So there's all these laws that are in place, and it's really about the almighty dollar. It's really about putting people behind bars, and we're dealing with the haves and the have-nots. That's what we're dealing with. Some people will say, well, why don't you just obey the law and do what well, guess what? It's a lot of innocent people in jail too. The United States has 25% of all of the entire world, 20 of the whole world, 25% of the world's prisoners are in the United States.
Oh, I don't know that.
Yeah, so 1/4 of all prisoners are in prison in the United States. And a lot of them are in jail, not for violent crimes. Some people think when they hear prisoner that they hear somebody rob somebody or somebody kill somebody or somebody rape somebody or whatever, what have you. a lot of these people are in jail due to something called the war on drugs. And when the war on drugs came, this happened in the late 70s, early 80s, when they declared the war on drugs and crack cocaine, the advent of crack cocaine. They said that crack cocaine was a worse offense than cocaine itself. Now, crack cocaine comes from cocaine, but they said that it was worse. So you would do 100 times what you did for, if they send you to, let me break it down to small numbers. If they sent you to jail for 1 day for having an ounce of cocaine, they send you to jail for 100 days for having that same ounce of crack cocaine. So where was crack cocaine at? It was in the black community. Why was it there? Well, the CIA can tell you about that. The CIA is the one that brought it into the community. And if you think that's a lie, the CIA said it themselves. So they lied for 20 or 30 years, and then the truth came out. But we had been talking about this for the longest. You know, if you listen to Ice Cube, I think it was Kill It Will, one of those records, he said, we don't have money, we don't have airplanes to fly from Colombia and Bolivia into the hood, into South Central and Watts and Oakland and Detroit and Richmond, Virginia and Atlanta, Georgia, and all of these places. So who's bringing it here? So that's it's such a vast sea of information that you need to understand to really understand what's happening with police brutality. Police brutality is the mere scratching of the surface of what's happening with the justice system itself. The people who have the main power, the people who have the most power in this justice system are someone's called the prosecutor. You hear the term district attorney, the prosecutor. They can throw out a case, they can admit a case, they can hold you in jail awaiting trial for months, and in some cases years. So in order to understand what's going on with the police, you have to understand the justice system itself, and you have to understand mass incarceration and do your homework on those numbers. All this information is out there. So I hope that I inspire someone to dig a little bit deeper than what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Maybe pick up a book. There's some great books you can pick up. One is called, if I can just throw one out at you right now, The New Jim Crow by Michelle Alexander is a great book to start with for those who...
Yes, tell me the book.
It's called The New Jim Crow,
okay,
by Michelle Alexander. She's a Stanford Law author who came out of Stanford Law. And it's a great entry point into understanding the way the justice system works, and gives you a little bit of history on Jim Crow, the Black Codes, and every step of the way, starting from slavery, indentured servitude, all the way up through the Black Codes and Jim Crow, all the way up to what she refers to as the new Jim Crow, which is mass incarceration.
Okay, so let's go talking about music again. What about today's hip hop? How do you see the new sound? What's being produced today in the hip hop industry? Do you see anything hot? Are you boom bap defender? Are you innovating with the sounds? Do you see anything interesting today in hip hop?
To be honest with you, I listen to a lot of other kind of music. I still listen to hip hop, don't get me wrong, but I don't have like a steady diet of hip hop. I was just, one of my friends, he lives in Washington, D.C. He called me last night and he's like, we went to elementary school together, So I've known him since I was about 5 or 6 years old. And he was telling me about another friend of mine, since he doesn't live out here anymore. He lives all the way on the East Coast. He's like, yo, you need to get with this cat, because he's making some dope music, And I was like, oh yeah, man, I was just thinking about him last week. And what I'm getting at is, I know so many talented people that live in my immediate area, and they're giving me music and they saying, listen to this and listen to that. That right there is like, that's like enough for me. You know what I'm saying? And that speaks to the volume of good music that's being put out. You know what I'm saying? Obviously I'm gonna still listen to, like, if I see like, oh, Chuck D, Public Enemy just put something out, or Nas just put something out, or Fat Joe just put something out, or Boot Camp Click, or Griselda or MF Doom or whatever, I'm always keeping my ear to the street in that regard. You know what I'm saying? We do an event out here every year called Hyro Day in Oakland. It's a hip hop festival that happens every year here in Oakland, California. We're not doing it this year because of COVID, and we're taking the safe route as far as not having mass amounts of people come together to watch a show. But every year, under normal circumstances, around this time, Hyro Day is normally on what they call Labor Day out here. I think it's the 7th this year. We're going to do a virtual one this year, but we bring in artists from all over the United States. I mean, we've had Anderson .Paak, we've had Black Thought, we've had Talib Kweli, we've had Griselda, we've had Too Short, Juvenile, a lot of local artists, so many I can't even name, because this is going to be the 9th year in a row that we're doing it. So you have to keep if you want to throw a good festival, you have to have your ear to the street. You have to know people that have their ear to the street, so you can get in that think tank with them and sit down and say, hey, who should we have performing this year? So it's so much good music out there, and it's actually inspiring, man. I'm inspired by my crew. I'm inspired by the Souls of Mischief. I'm inspired by Del the Funky Homo Sapien. I'm inspired by Casual, whose album I just jumped on, Big Head Science, not too long ago. DJ Teray, Pep Love, A+, and my boy Architect, who does a lot of tour DJ stuff for Souls of Mischief. Everybody has projects that they're working on, and when they, those are the people that are closest to me, and I get their stuff first, and that's pretty much that's good enough for me.
Yeah.
Όσον αφορά το θέμα της αστυνομικής βίας, μας λέει ότι δεν είναι καινούριο φαινόμενο. Υπάρχει εδώ και πολύ καιρό. Κάνει αναφορά στις εξεγέρσεις του Rodney King στο Λος Άντζελες το 1992, όπου κάει όλο το Λος Άντζελες, και ανά την ιστορία, σε πολλά χρονικά σημεία, είχαμε τέτοια σημεία χαρακτηριστικά, όπως μας λέει, βρασμού, και αυτό που έγινε τώρα με τον George Floyd ήταν ακόμα ένα σημείο βρασμού στην ιστορία. Αν μιλάμε για τη συμπεριφορά της αστυνομίας απέναντι στους έγχρωμους, μας λέει ότι η αστυνομία απλά κάνει τη δουλειά της, ότι υπερασπίζονται τον νόμο έτσι ώστε κάνουν αυτά που κάνουν, διότι ο νόμος δεν θα τους κρίνει. Αλλά εμείς, αν θέλουμε να δούμε παραπέρα, θα πρέπει να είμαστε πιο διαβασμένοι από αυτό. Να μην αφήνουμε τα μέσα μαζικής ενημέρωσης να μας αποστρεβλώνουν και σαν να έχουμε το τρίτο μάτι μας στην ενόρασή μας για να μπορούμε να δούμε λίγο παρακάτω. Κάνει αναφορά στο Oakland ότι ήταν η βάση των Black Panthers, ότι έχουν, ας πούμε, στο DNA τους την εξέγερση, να πούμε. Μας μίλησε επίσης για ένα φαινόμενο για πολίτες δεύτερης κατηγορίας, που σημαίνει τι? Για παράδειγμα, άνθρωποι οι οποίοι είναι καταδικασμένοι, αντί να μπουν στη φυλακή, στερούνται τα πολιτικά τους δικαιώματα. Αυτοί χαρακτηρίζονται ως πολίτες δεύτερης κατηγορίας, ακριβώς διότι δεν μπορούν να ασκήσουν τα πολιτικά τους δικαιώματα, να ψηφίσουν. Οπότε δεν έχουν κάποια δύναμη μέσα στην κοινωνία να μπορούν να ακουστούν πολιτικά. Κάτι πολύ σημαντικό που μας αναφέρει είναι ότι 25% των παγκόσμιων κρατουμένων είναι κρατούμενοι στις Ηνωμένες Πολιτείες. Ότι μέσα στις αμερικάνικες φυλακές υπάρχουν πολλοί αθώοι. Επίσης υπάρχουν κρατούμενοι, οι οποίοι δεν είναι όλοι για βία. Διότι όταν κάποιος ακούει τον όρο κρατούμενος, φοβάται ίσως, πάει το μυαλό του σε βιαστές, σε δολοφόνους κτλ. Ενώ στην ουσία δεν είναι έτσι. Μας κάνει μια αναφορά για τα 70s και τα 80s και για τον πόλεμο κατά των ναρκωτικών, όταν ξέσπασε η πληγή του κρακ στα γκέτο της Νέας Υόρκης. Μας λέει αναφορικά ότι νομικά οι ποινές για το κρακ είναι 100 φορές πιο δυνατές, πιο ισχυρές από ότι οι ποινές για την απλή κοκαίνη. Μας λέει συγκεκριμένα ότι το ένα είναι παράγωγο του άλλου και τιμωρούνταν όμως 100 φορές πιο δραστικά από το αμερικάνικο σύστημα δικαιοσύνης. Μας λέει αναφορικά ότι με έγκυρες πηγές καταγεγραμμένες, η CIA έβαλε το κρακ τότε στις συνοικίες των μαύρων της Αμερικής, παράλληλα χτυπώντας δραστικά με τις ποινές τους παραβάτες όσον οτιδήποτε είχε να κάνει με το κρακ. Θα πρέπει να δούμε το θέμα γενικά πιο σφαιρικά. Η βία είναι απλά η επιφάνεια. Θα πρέπει να δούμε κάτω από το ζήτημα. Θα πρέπει να δούμε και να μελετήσουμε γενικά το δικαστικό σύστημα στο πανόραμά του και να εμβαθύνουμε. Μας κάνει επίσης αναφορά σε ένα βιβλίο το οποίο λέγεται The New Jim Crow της Μισελ Αλεξάνδερ, το οποίο μιλάει για ένα σύστημα νόμων τα τέλη της δεκαετίας του 19ου αιώνα και στις αρχές του 20ου, που ως σκοπό είχαν να αποδυναμώσουν και να αφαιρέσουν όλα τα πολιτικά και οικονομικά δικαιώματα των έγχρωμων της Αμερικής. Ο Phesto Dee, σχετικά με το νέο ήχο, με το New Sound, μας λέει ότι είναι πολυδιάστατος, ότι ακούει πολλά και διαφορετικά είδη μουσικής. Συγκεκριμένα μας λέει ότι δεν έχει σταθερή δίαιτα hip hop. Για παράδειγμα, ανταλλάσσουν μουσική μεταξύ φίλων, ακολουθεί πάντα καινούργιες κυκλοφορίες. Για παράδειγμα, κάνει αναφορά στο High Road Day. Είναι ένα φεστιβάλ που διοργανώνουν για ένατη χρονιά φέτος. Φέτος δεν έγινε λόγω COVID, στο Oakland, με συμμετοχές από πολύ σημαντικούς καλλιτέχνες όπως ο Too Short, το Juvenile. Για να κάνεις ένα φεστιβάλ δυνατό, να προσελκύσεις τον κόσμο, πρέπει να έχεις ταυτίσει στον δρόμο ή να ξέρεις ανθρώπους που έχουν ταυτίσει στον δρόμο, στις καινούργιες παραγωγές, στις καινούργιες κυκλοφορίες. Πάντα ψάχνει πολύ καλή μουσική, εμπνέεται πολύ από το κρού του, από καλλιτέχνες όπως ο Pep Love, A+, Architect κτλ.
Good evening, Oakland. I'm your host, Ali Shaheed Muhammad. You know, like I know, stay inside tonight and avoid the dark showers, because anything can happen.
The past is an illusion, there is only now. The future is a fiction, there is only now. A brief intermission, there is only now. Of this there is no question, there is only now. And if I get too lifted, would you hold me down? And if you think I'm slipping, would you show me how? The future is a fiction, there is only now.
Check it, it was a kind of love most people only find it once. Divinely touched by angels, there was no time for lust.
Plus, I'ma tell them that a teenage love will never last. Looking through the glass of past scars, so fast forward to the future where the youth them are a-changing.
But this couple don't care what you saying, they hearts blazing. Can't nobody tell them nothing, they love is unstoppable.
Overcome any obstacle, together they will always grow.
Don't let go, holding on.
He know they saying take it slow, to him it's taking long.
Save this place is in your arms.
Her daddy saying this ain't right to her, it can't be
Maybe
wrong.
if we hold on a little while longer, 'cause the love is so strong.
You know that I would die when you love me.
I pray this feeling never leaves me, I want it forever.
And I'll do anything to see that we always together.
Whatever it takes for something that no one can sever.
Together,
Forever, whatever.
it takes us something that no one can sever.
And I'll do anything to see that we always together.
Forever,
Together,
together.
forever.
What's love? Can you imagine being told by the old, this ain't right, fuss and fight, don't you roll, it's so cold, what's your mode, will he break or will he fold, they won't be the homie Stony, in love with his girl, and so is the big homie, now what a pity, a footnote to the cutthroat, it's rare, see I was told all in love is unfair, 1 feet, 1 fare, done there, fishing, dishing, and wishing upon air, vision and prison beyond years, damn, people always pushing the wrong way. See, my advice to the homie Stony is do it your own way, the long way, and hear what the songs say. Together, forever, forever, together. You dig? See, this is what it's supposed to boast and get close and be with the one that you truly love the most. Is destiny.
The past is an illusion, there is only now.
They already moved planets and moons. The plan is to vanish and move. Flip a townhouse down south. Powwows with the gals. Outbound fishing boat with his city folk sipping slow. Then he spoke pushing the envelope, which extended hope to an innermost impulse. His desire for a child undisclosed.
Deep inside a fire took hold the moment that the plot was shown. Visions of intermingled souls, matching afros, juleps on a creaky post. Life at a slower tempo, no regulations to encroach upon their relations. Cantankerous kin folks, damn. If they can't accept us, then we gon' scram. The past is an illusion, there is only now. Now, a brief intermission, there is only now. Of this there is no question, there is only now. And if I get too lifted, would you hold me down? And if you think I'm slipping, would you show me how? The future is a fiction, there is only now. The past is an illusion, there is only now. Now.
there a song of yours that stands out?
For me personally, or are you saying for?
Yes.
My solo tip, you saying?
Whenever you want, or from solo, or from Souls of Mischief.
Obviously, 93 Till Infinity is like,
Yeah.
That's our calling card. That's our calling card. So, that's lightning in a bottle. I just woke up this morning and listened to There Is Only Now, which is produced by Adrian Young and was remixed by Ali Shaheed Muhammad from A Tribe Called Quest. And there was a song that we did with Snoop Dogg on there. And we just had the 6-year anniversary for that record. I couldn't even believe it had been 6 years. I was like, wow, you got to be kidding me. 6 years went by that fast. And that record was our first record that we did all live instrumentation, no samplers, no sample keyboards, all done to all analog. Never went into a computer until it had gone to the mastering stage. So that record holds a special place in my heart, and it's a story. So you can't really take like one song out and say, oh, this is my song right here, because it's kind of like you have to listen to the whole body of work. And we've never really prided ourselves, so to speak, on one song, because whenever we make a record, we're always trying to make a record, first of all. And when you're trying to make a record, you're trying to make a full body of work. And so, yeah, I have songs that I like, but it's always like what you're going for to hit that bullseye is to get this complete body of work that works seamlessly together and sounds good as a whole, as opposed to just one or two songs. You know what I'm saying? I know we live in this era now where you can just kind of like download a song and make your own mixes and all that kind of stuff, and it jumps all around, But I still appreciate when an artist comes out with a full, complete body of work, and I look for those records more so than I do just like, oh, this is a nice song, that I'm gonna put on repeat or whatever, So, yeah, I mean, if I had to pick one, I would say 93 Till Infinity, because that song has taken us all around the world, and people come up to me all the time and say, hey, yo, that song is just, it means so much to me. And every other song that we haven't made a song that's had that impact, although I love the majority of them. But as an artist, you always look more from a critical. I think you listen more critically to your music than your fan base does. You know what I mean? So I hear the mistakes when I listen to my songs. So I'm always like, let me get to the next song so I can, try to capture this new energy or whatever it is.
Yeah, nice.
Would you share with us a couple of very special experiences with your crew, with Souls of Mischief? The very first one that comes to your mind? Sure.
Well, this one comes to my mind right now because there was a photographer that just put out a bunch of photographic work from this point in time, and it was when it was the Midnight Marauders album cover shoot with A Tribe Called Quest, who was our label mates at the time. It was an incredible experience to be even asked to be a part of that, first of all. But then after we were asked to be a part of it, the experience itself was even that much better, because it was like we were in the room with all of these people who we had come to love, so to speak, through their music. So I remember that whole shoot and going into this warehouse and taking it's just our faces or whatever. So they just took a photo of us and then it was like done, But then there was other photographers there. One guy's name is Ernie Paniccioli. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing his name right. He just put out a dope hip hop photo book, and it's like, I mean, he was in the trenches, man. Like he was there, he was everywhere. I just bought his book, and I was like slightly disappointed that we weren't in the book, but I was like, wow, man, this is incredible. This is an incredible collection of photographic work from almost 1979, probably all the way up to like 1999. You know what I'm saying? So someone hit me on Twitter with like a photo from that time. Oh, actually, as a matter of fact, it was Opio. Opio, who was one of the Souls of Mischief. hit me up and sent me a picture, and it was the digital photo archive from the University of from Cornell University, and it was this guy Ernie's photographic archive that belongs. I guess he did work with the University of Cornell, and it's massive, man. But it brought back that memory for me, which was, I just remember a hot summer day going up in this warehouse, and then it was really hot and sweaty, and I went to a sink and I went to wash my face, and you throw your water on your face, and then you come up and you kind of got water in your eyes, and then I look up and there's a mirror in front of me, and in the mirror was Grandmaster Flash, and I was just like, kind of like, am I seeing, like, is this real, And Grandmaster Flash was standing right next to me, and I just kind of looked over at him, and I was just like, wow, and then he kind of laughed, like gave like a, this like, kind of humbled laugh in a way. It's kind of like, and then I shook his hand. I was like, man, it's great to meet you, man. But it was a lot of artists there, and a lot of people who I have a great amount of respect for that I met that day. And being like an 18, 19-year-old kid at the time, I probably didn't really realize how monumental that moment was. But to see it roughly 20, years later, almost 30 years later, really, and to see like, oh, wow, somebody did actually capture it outside of just the Midnight Marauders album cover itself, which had all these different faces of it. Are you guys familiar with the album that I'm talking about? It's the album cover that has faces of all these different artists on it, just the face, and lined up across the album, Midnight Marauders by A Tribe Called Quest.
Yeah. So, we will see you in something new.
Man, you know what?
New single, new song.
I wish I had an answer to that question. I was actually supposed to do some recording today. I haven't been over to the studio because of COVID, so I've been doing everything from home, and it's a little more difficult to do things at home. You can't quite get the, I don't have any soundproof rooms, so you can't quite get the noise quality. There's a lot of noise pollution at home versus at the studio. So with that being said, it's not as easy to record when you want to record, especially vocal. So it takes me a little longer now to do a song and record it. So I don't know. I can't really answer that question, man. I wish I could, but things are so unpredictable now. For a moment, they lifted all of these mandates for COVID and the pandemic, and then they shut things back down again because people in the United States, we have a population of people who just don't get it. And who don't care and they only think about themselves, and they're not going to put on a mask, and they're not going to social distance. And so that's why the numbers have been so high here. It also speaks a lot to our so-called leadership here in this country. You know what I'm saying? So with all of those things in play, it's made it that much harder for me to record music, but I can create probably more than I've ever been able to create because I'm home so much.
Yeah, I see.
What about your best live show ever? I mean, in terms of audience, or the one you mostly enjoy? If you had to talk to us about just one live show, which one would that be?
I would probably have to say, I can't pick one, to be honest with you. I could pick two, could pick like two or three, but if I had to pick one, I would say I would take it back to High Road Day 1. High Road Day, for the first High Road Day, we kind of put it together at the last minute. We put it together like maybe 3 weeks in advance, and we just said, hey man, it was a fan on Twitter that was like, yo, we should call 9/3, which happens to be September the 3rd, September being the 9th month of the year, for 93 till infinity. Let's make 9/3 High Road Day. And I was like, oh man, that's really cool. And Casual came up with the idea to throw basically a party on that day, sort of a block party kind of thing. And we just thought it would be a small little thing. We would have a few artists come out and perform. I think we had Planet Asia, Black Alicious, Zion I, artist named Kev Choice and his band. I think Grouch and Eli were there. Some, basically local guys and friends, the homies that we knew. And it turned out, man, it was about like maybe between 100 and 200 people came. And I think I was like, I'm gonna run home. I didn't live too far from the event, so I was like, I'm gonna run home and come back. And when I came back, it was like 6,000 people there.
Whoa.
And just that fast, the word had spread and all these people came. And it was right around the time we were supposed to hit the stage as Hieroglyphics to perform, do a set, and thank people for coming. And at that point, we realized, wow, not only do we have the support of the city, we always knew that, but we realized at that point, like, wow, this could be something that goes on for years. And here we are now at the 9th year of Hiero Day. So that's why that first one is special to me. It's not so much about the show itself. It's more so about the support that our hometown and our friends and family and all of that have for us. And it's also about like us. It was about us being able to give back to the community that we're from, to provide, there were food trucks and artists and graffiti artists and dancers and skateboarders and DJs and people. It created a platform for people who may not otherwise have one. So it was small and it got bigger. It got about 3 times the size that it was that day now. But that first one is special, very special.
Yeah, I see. So, if I'm right, you have 6 albums with Souls of Mischief, 3 solo albums, and 3 albums with Hieroglyphics, right?
Yes.
Which one is more special to you?
Albums are kind of like kids. I don't know if any of you have, or if you guys are fathers or not, but it's kind of like saying like which one of your kids is more special to you. You love all of them for different reasons, right? But there's no disparity in how much you love a body of work that you created. You could always say like 93 Till Infinity was the first one for us, but then in that same breath, Third Eye Vision is the first Hieroglyphics record. So as a collective, and it also launched our label, whereas 93 Till Infinity was us being on another label, which is now defunct. We've outlasted the major label that we were on by way of creating our own label and being independent musicians. So it's definitely between those 2 records, Third Eye Vision and 93 Till Infinity are the top 2, but I can't really, it doesn't really have anything to do with the product itself. It's more about like when they happened, with them both being first of their for one of a kind in terms of like of where they were in these special points in our career. The first album that we put out on a major label was 93 Till Infinity, and so it's like a first child. You know what I'm saying? Like that's the best comparison. It's like that's your first child. That's the first. So, but all your children that come after that first one aren't any less special than that first one.
Yeah. Thank you. We have here with us. Best wishes. Yeah, man. Thank you guys for having me, man. It was great talking to you guys, man. You guys asked some wonderful questions, and it's therapeutic for me to be able to talk about hip hop and talk about music as a whole, which I love so dearly. And Hiero and Souls of Mischief have never been to Greece as a crew. I've been to Greece. My wife and I went on our honeymoon to Greece. That's the first time I went. Yeah. And this was some time ago. My memories of Greece are getting off the, coming into the airport and getting off and taking the subway and getting off. And when I came up out of the subway, it was a huge riot. Yeah.
And when I came out of there and I said it was a riot and a protest, and most people would have been scared coming into a new country, walking right into a middle of a riot with all of your luggage coming from another country. But it actually made me feel a little bit at home coming from where I come from. And it was a special place, man. I went around to different islands. I went to, I went to the tourist destinations. I went to Santorini. I went to Mykonos. I went to, I went on a cruise there, and I only spent about 2 days in Athens. And I always said, man, we got to come back to Athens, because there wasn't enough time for me to really get around and enjoy the city the way I would have liked to. So hopefully, man, one day Souls of Mischief or Hieroglyphics can make its way to Greece, man, to perform for the people. And I know it's a hip hop audience out there. It's no question in my mind. I could tell when I was out there.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
that's true.
You know, that's one of our bucket list destinations. We still got a lot of uncharted territory in this world where we want to go, even though we've been doing it for a long time. So hopefully, man, we can make it out your way sooner than later.
We expect you, and I promise I get on you to the studio to make the interview live from the studio when you come here in Athens.
Yes, sir. Yes, man. Man, appreciate that, man. That's all love, brother. And you guys, man, once again, thank you. I appreciate you.
Thank you a lot. Be safe, take care.
Same to you, brother.
Peace.
Hip hop forever. High road, baby.
Σχετικά με ξεχωριστό τραγούδι, μας κάνει αναφορά στο 93 Till Infinity ως το κύριο χαρτί τους. Μας λέει ότι σήμερα άκουγε ένα κομμάτι που λέγεται There is Only Now, που το έχει κάνει remix ο Aligiannis Mohammed, τον Tribe Called Quest. Είχε συμμετοχή και ο Snoop Dogg. Και συγκεκριμένα σήμερα ήταν η 6η επέτειος αυτού του κομματιού. Ήταν στον πρώτο τους δίσκο και ήταν ένα κομμάτι το οποίο ήταν εξ ολοκλήρου ενορχιστρωμένο, instrumental, χωρίς remixes, χωρίς samplers, χωρίς synthesizers. Οπότε μας κάνει αναφορά σε μια ολόκληρη ιστορία σαν εμπειρία και όχι σαν ένα κομμάτι. Επίσης μας λέει ότι δεν είχε ποτέ σκοπό να επικεντρώνεται στο να περνάει μηνύματα μόνο μέσα από 1-2 κομμάτια, αλλά μέσα από μια ολοκληρωμένη δουλειά, μέσα από το δίσκο. Ξέρει, λέει, ότι στη σύγχρονη εποχή που έχουμε τα social media, την ευκολία να κατεβάζουμε κομμάτια κτλ. Αλλά αυτός επικεντρώνεται, του αρέσει όταν βλέπει μια ολοκληρωμένη δουλειά, εκτιμάει τέτοιους καλλιτέχνες που εκφράζονται μέσα από τέτοιου είδους δουλειές και ψάχνει τέτοιους δίσκους τους οποίους μπορεί να τον βάλεις και να τον αφήσεις να παίξει ολόκληρος και όχι ένα κομμάτι να επαναλαμβάνεται, να παίζει το ίδιο και το ίδιο ξανά και ξανά. Αλλά αν γενικά έπρεπε να διαλέξει ένα κομμάτι, θα διάλεγε το 93 Till Infinity, διότι αυτό το κομμάτι ήταν το κομμάτι που τους πήγε παντού ανά τον κόσμο, ήταν το κομμάτι που είχε τη μεγαλύτερη επιρροή στο κοινό και αν διάλεγε ένα θα διάλεγε το 93 Till Infinity. Ζητάμε από τον Phesto Dee να μας πει μια μοναδική εμπειρία και μας είπε για μια στιγμή όπου έκαναν φωτογράφηση για το εξώφυλλο του δίσκου των Tribe Called Quest, Midnight Marauders, όπου υπήρχαν πολύ σημαντικοί άνθρωποι της μουσικής εκεί γύρω. Φαίνεται όμως ότι τελευταία του έχουν τραβήξει την προσοχή τα φωτογραφικά αρχεία της μουσικής του hip hop. Συγκεκριμένα μας κάνει αναφορά σε κάποιον Ernie Paniccioli, ο οποίος ήταν φωτογράφος, ο οποίος έχει συλλογή φωτογραφικών αρχείων σημαντικών στιγμών, ήταν πάντα εκεί παρόν σε σημαντικές στιγμές του group, τραβώντας φωτογραφίες. Τελευταία είδε τα φωτογραφικά του αρχεία και ενθουσιάστηκε, συγκλονίστηκε. Επίσης αναφέρεται στο άλλο μέλος του group, τον Όπιο, ο οποίος και αυτός φαίνεται να έχει την ίδια τρέλα με τις φωτογραφίες και τα αρχεία του hip hop από συναυλίες. Επίσης μας λέει συγκεκριμένες στιγμές εκείνης της ημέρας, θυμάται ότι έκανε πολύ ζέστη, αυτό που υδρώνει, φουστάζεις και έχει σκύψει στο νηπτήρα να πλύνει τα μούτρα του και εκεί που σηκώνει το πρόσωπό του να κοιταχθεί στον καθρέφτη βλέπει τον Grandmaster Flash, έτσι σαν να μην τρέχει τίποτα, ξέρεις, το σοκ της στιγμής. Μας λέει ότι ήταν 18-19 χρονών, γνώρισε πάρα πολύ σημαντικούς ανθρώπους. Εκείνη τη στιγμή δεν μπορούσε να καταλάβει το μέγεθος της εμπειρίας που ζούσε, όμως σήμερα 30 χρόνια μετά σχεδόν, αναπολύει και σκέφτεται τι στιγμή ήταν εκείνη, ας πούμε, που έζησε. Ρωτάμε τον Phesto Dee τι ετοιμάζει μουσικά. Δεν μπορεί να μας δώσει μια ακριβή απάντηση. Λέει ότι δεν ξέρει, ότι περνάει πολύ χρόνο σπίτι λόγω της πανδημίας. Δεν μπορεί να είναι συχνά στο στούντιο λόγω της πανδημίας, είναι υποπεριορισμό. Οπότε στο σπίτι ηχογραφεί μεν, αλλά υπάρχει μεγαλύτερη ηχορύπανση, υπάρχει όχι τόσο καλή ηχομόνωση. Οπότε μια ηχογράφηση από το σπίτι πάντα αργεί πιο πολύ από ότι μια ηχογράφηση στο στούντιο. Δεν ξέρει να μας απαντήσει τι θα βγάλει και πότε θα βγάλει. Η καιρή είναι απρόβλεπτη. Κάνει αναφορά σε μια μεγάλη κατηγορία ανθρώπων στις Ηνωμένες Πολιτείες, ανεύθυνοι, που δεν χρησιμοποιούν μάσκα, που δεν κρατάνε τις αποστάσεις και κάνουν το πράγμα πολύ πιο δύσκολο για όλους και αυτό έχει αντίκτυπο και στη δουλειά του. Ηχογραφεί λιγότερο αυτόν τον καιρό, αλλά μας λέει ότι ακριβώς επειδή είναι στο σπίτι πολύ καιρό, είναι πάρα πολύ δημιουργικός. Ζητάμε στον Phesto Dee να μας πει ένα ξεχωριστό live και μας λέει ότι θα πρέπει να ήταν το High Road Day, το πρώτο φεστιβάλ που διοργάνωσε στο Oakland, στην Καλιφόρνια. Και αυτό γιατί το ετοίμασαν μόνο σε 3 εβδομάδες, όλα έγιναν πάρα πολύ βιαστικά. Ήθελαν να το κάνουν στις 3 Σεπτέμβρη, λογοπαίγνιο με το 93 Till Infinity, να κάνουν ένα ξεχωριστό πάρτι. Έτσι και έγινε Στην αρχή λέει ήταν 200 άτομα, πετάχτηκε μια στιγμή στο σπίτι του, γύρισε και ήταν 6.000 άτομα. Σε μια στιγμή εκεί έπρεπε να βγουν σαν ιερογλήφοι στο σχήμα τους, να καληνυχτήσουν, να ευχαριστήσουν το κοινό. Και εκεί κατάλαβαν από τη ζεστασιά του κοινού ότι δεν είχαν μόνο την εύνοια, την τοπική υποστήριξη, αλλά άρχισαν να καταλαβαίνουν ότι το πράγμα μπορεί να έφτανε και πάρα πολύ ψηλά κάποια στιγμή στο μέλλον. Λέει ότι την αγάπη που δέχονταν από το κοινό τους ήθελαν να την ανταποδώσουν στην τοπική κοινότητα, οπότε διοργάνωναν, για παράδειγμα, φορτηγά με φαγητά για τους άστεγους κτλ. Έφερναν DJ, καλλιτέχνες graffiti, skateboarders, έκαναν events, έτσι ώστε να ανταποδώσουν την αγάπη που έπαιρναν από την τοπική κοινότητα κατά κάποιο τρόπο. Τότε, όταν ξεκίνησε το High Road Day, ήταν κάτι μικρό. Φέτος έχει τριπλασιαστεί το μέγεθός του, αλλά μας λέει ότι το πρώτο ήταν το πιο ξεχωριστό απ' όλα. Ο Aggelos ζητάει από τον Phesto Dee να μας ξεχωρίσει ένα άλμπουμ και αυτός μας λέει ότι οι δίσκοι είναι σαν τα παιδιά. Δεν μπορείς να ξεχωρίσεις το πρωτότοκο ή να δώσεις περισσότερη σημασία στο πρώτο σου παιδί από ότι σε όλα τα υπόλοιπα. Το πρώτο τους άλμπουμ, το 93 Till Infinity, που ήταν και το πρώτο άλμπουμ που έβγαλαν σε μεγάλη δισκογραφική εταιρεία, την Defunct, ναι μεν ήταν το πρώτο τους. Μετά όμως έβαλαν το Third Division με τους Hieroglyphics σαν ανεξάρτητο group με ανεξάρτητη δική τους δισκογραφική εταιρεία. Και τα δύο σημαντικά δεν μπορεί να ξεχωρίσει κάποιο από τα δύο και μας λέει ότι η σημαντικότητα είναι στη στιγμή που γίνονται τα πράγματα και όχι το πώς γίνονται. Έτσι καταλήγει να μας λέει ότι και τα δύο είναι ξεχωριστά στην καρδιά του, μοναδικά το καθένα. Ο Phesto Dee και η Ελλάδα. Ο Phesto Dee δεν έχει έρθει σαν καλλιτέχνη στην Ελλάδα να δώσει συναυλία. Έχει έρθει η μήνα του Μέλιτος με τη γυναίκα του, Σαντορίνη, Μύκονο και 2 μέρες στην Αθήνα. Ένιωσε όμως ότι στην Αθήνα θέλει να ξαναγυρίσει, πρέπει να ξαναγυρίσει, δεν την είδε. Θα ήθελε να γυρίσει σαν καλλιτέχνης μόνος του ή με τους Hieroglyphics. Χαρακτηριστικά θυμάται ότι είχε βγει σε κάποια στάση του μετρό στο κέντρο προφανώς και έπεσε μέσα σε μια διαδήλωση από τις γνωστές μας, την οποία χαρακτηριστικά την αποκαλεί εξέγερση και μας λέει ότι οποιοδήποτε άλλος τουρίστας είχε βρεθεί μέσα σε αυτό το χάος, θα είχε φοβηθεί, θα είχε τρομοκρατηθεί. Αυτός όμως το ένιωσε, το έζησε, το βίωσε και το ευχαριστήθηκε και μας λέει ότι θα ήθελε να ξαναγυρίσει στην Αθήνα καλλιτεχνικά. Τον ευχαριστούμε πολύ που ήταν μαζί μας απόψε. Είναι καλεσμένος όταν θα έρθει στην Ελλάδα στο στούντιο για ζωντανή συνέντευξη εκείνη τη φορά.
Αυτός ήταν και ο Phesto Dee από τους Souls of Mischief. Τον ευχαριστούμε πάρα πολύ, τον είχαμε κοντά μας σήμερα, εδώ στην πρεμιέρα της Unknown Sound Beyond the Neighborhood. Εσείς φυσικά μας ακολουθείτε στο κανάλι της εκπομπής στο YouTube, Unknown Sound, αλλά και στις σελίδες σε Facebook και Instagram. Μέχρι την επόμενη εκπομπή, καλό σας βράδυ.
Via climb with a firearm, live wire, Goliath squad, killer for hire, y'all. The incredible champion swag, still engraved in the high road national flag. In the pavement, jet lag off the red eye from Alcatraz. Gang came out, Malcolm Little, Malik Shabazz. Not a guy personified, unique pizzazz. You still shucking and jiving with your cheesy ass. Be the first to blast like Bill, bulletproof glass steel. Couldn't stop my inertial mass appeal. Respect the name, infuriate the imperial great. Marinate bottom of the beer straight. Smack any smirk back for flirting with apocalypse. Force majeure, take course, there's no stopping us. Best keep the best of bitches, they ain't facing like an esthetician. Waste your hips ratio, effervescent speed. Ahead with a full head of steam, strike team. Headed upstream, infrared beam steam. Operation Pedigree, renegade theme. Champ swagger lathered up clean, full speed. Ahead with a full head of steam, strike team. Headed upstream, infrared beam steam. Operation Pedigree, renegade theme. Champ swagger lathered up clean. I'm from the oak tree stumps where they lead the league in speed bumps. Eastside veteran, first team never freeze up. Hopping out the Riviera, put them under a spell. Then I handcuff lightning, throw thunder in jail. Hungry and frail, they get played like Mateo. Sold out for the mayo, another sucker duck for the label. Chances of survival zero. Any rival Negro must be suicidal like Evo Knievel. Better know how to play the bench and the fader pitch. Let the calibrator spit, it's all greater, bitch. Pack the tomahawk scalpel in the candy apple lack. Lace up the saddle and kick gravel back. Pickaxe in the back satchel. Move with miraculous accuracy. Back at you with heat. Infatuation with information, not infiltration. Interruption of infrastructure with orchestration. Speed ahead with a full head of steam. Strike team, headed upstream, infrared beam steam. Operation pedigree, renegade beam. Chance swagger, lathered up clean. Full speed ahead with a full head of steam. Strike team, headed upstream, infrared beam steam. Operation pedigree, renegade beam. Chance swagger, lathered up clean. Park the mirror off Embarcadero by the bureau. Descended from the oyster bar in that sharp apparel. I'm marching with the archer's arrow. Going back to start from zero, I was habanero. Godfather Bob De Niro, raging bull. Raised in that paid pool era. Billy Ball, Yogi Beer, Pretty Tone, Che Guevara. Calico game, we propane. Get your ego tame like Roscoe, Pico train. Thought for rap menagerie, art and craft carpentry. Start the bathwater, she exotic and nautical novelty. Domestic imported rappers been exported by the corporate conglomerate, demonic Masonic clique. Byproduct of your forefathers whipping chain. They must be sniffing cane, speaking hieroglyphics, man. Get your gang woke up, before they put your frame in the picture frame. Across the pine, autobahn, switching lanes. Speed ahead with a full head of steam. Strike team, headed upstream, infrared beam steam. Operation pedigree, renegade beam. Chance swagger, lathered up clean. Full speed ahead with a full head of steam. Strike team, headed upstream, infrared beam